Well, at this time of year, when it's cold, we all feel like comfort food, right? And one of the things that I really enjoy a lot is a really nice hearty soup. And I have some that I love, and I'm going to try and introduce you to some of them. And I have a sister that lives in California, and she, shares things that she has found that she really likes. And one that she recently shared with me is this soup, and I have 4 peanut soup recipes. I like them all because I have a son that was working in Ethiopia for a while. Now he's working in Sudan and Khartoum. So it's introduced me to all these African food ideas, which have been a lot of fun. But this recipe really took my eye, and I like to taste it too, because its base is sweet potatoes, and it has a lot of greens in it. And so that means it's just like, if you're going to rate a recipe, I would give it an A+, because it's just like, it's not only a comfort food, but it's packed with really great nutrition. And at this time of year, when there's so many bad flus and colds and bad infections going around, to eat something that is just packed with antioxidants and excellent nutrition is really a wise idea. So I am going to walk you through this recipe, and I think when you have the recipe in your hand, it will make sense. I'm not going to actually chop everything in front of you because it would take a little too long in this case. So when I'm making this soup, I get out a pot about this size, and then I don't use oil for any recipes at all because I'm trying to use no refined products in my kitchen. So to steam my garlics and onions and ginger, I'll either use some vegetable broth or just water. And either way works. You just have to adjust your salt accordingly at the end. But I wanted to bring this to you and show it to you. The first time I made it, I steamed everything in water. Turned out great. And this time I thought, everyone's going to be tasting it. I'm on the line. So I better really do it right. So this time I made it with vegetable broth. So what do? So you can either use fresh ginger or powdered ginger. And when you get the recipe, you'll see that I have the amounts delineated there. And so I don't know if any of you are intimidated by ginger. I know it looks kind of odd when you just see it there on the shelf. But I wanted to show you something that a friend shared with me that has made using fresh ginger a lot easier. And that is, instead of peeling it with a knife, just to take a spoon and scrape it with a spoon. I'll show you. So, somehow it works very cleanly and nicely, and it has all these little pockets and like little branches, and the spoon is just easy and quick to use. So if you do to start off with fresh ginger, I would heartily encourage you just to get your piece of it and just take a spoon and scrape it. So I'll even leave it out here if someone wants to have a go at it afterwards. But that's very easy. And so then you can either grate it if you have a food grater, or you can use a knife and chop it into small pieces, whichever you're more comfortable with. But the basic idea is to have some ginger. So you start with ginger, and the next thing I put in is garlic. And depending on how much you love garlic, my house, we love garlic. This is from our garden. And these are nice, great big ones, and they have a huge punch of flavor. So that's fun. So, you can, if you like a little garlic, use small garlics. If you like a lot of garlic. So this recipe calls for 3 to 4 cloves of garlic. So in full disclosure, I'll tell you I use 3 hearty ones. So first, you take your ginger, put some water or broth in your pot, put your ginger in, mince the garlic, And then once that's kind of cooking nicely, then you just cut it, take an onion, dice an onion, add that. And so when that is started to cook nicely, then you take a sweet potato. This actually is from our garden. Had some great sweet potatoes this year. So you peel your sweet potato, and then this recipe calls it for it to be diced into small chunks. It's a little more hearty, but it's definitely faster, and then you just can think cheerful thoughts about the extra nutrients. So you peel your sweet potato, cut it into small chunks, put it in here, steam it for a few minutes, and then you add your seasonings, which are 2, cumin and red pepper flakes. So the original recipe that my sister gave me calls for 1/4 teaspoon. And that's what I started out with, but it was kind of like, whew! And so I backed off to 1/8 teaspoon for you tonight. But if you really enjoy a little more heat, you can budget up to 1/4 teaspoon for the red pepper. So these are your 2 seasonings. And then it calls for a can of black beans and a can of tomato paste. So you stir that in, let it cook for another 15-20 minutes, and then you take your kale, and I try and pack in as many greens as I can. You can use a variety of greens. I used this one because I thought it's very generally available. And so what I did was I pulled my leaves off my stalks. Then I put it on my cutting board. And I took my knife and I just cut it in narrow ribbons to try and make it as small as, you know, you don't have to be obsessive about it, but just try and make it thin because it helps it steam and cook quickly. So then you just put that in your pot, and 15 minutes later you're all done. So you will have this in paper form. This is a peanut soup. And I guess I am so tuned into thinking strictly of vegetables that this does use peanut butter and chunky peanut butter and natural peanut butter, no Skippy. And in reading up on when I was choosing what recipe to present with Jim's lecture on osteoporosis, I realized that beans and nuts are really good for osteoporosis, along with some other good things.